Today we're talking about Flowers in the Attic. Flowers in the Attic is a 1987 film adaptation of a book of the same title, written quite a while ago. It was banned from certain libraries and was probably still banned in certain areas. It is a very touchy, difficult subject to talk about. It's an uncomfortable one that a lot of people wouldn't want to talk about. The film is far less touchy than the novel of the same name was. The film decides to talk about one of the more acceptable, outraging story bits, whereas the novel talks about some very, even worse, incestuous things, if I should say the least. But we're going to talk about the film first, and then probably talk about some of the more controversial subjects the book of the same name discussed. In the film, Flowers in the Attic, we have what is, by appearance, a very happy and loving-go-lucky family. We have 4 kids, 2 teenagers, and 2 children, young children. I believe they're like 5 years old, and these 2 are like 14 and 16 and 14 or something like that. They've been aged up in the movie. Clearly, these are probably played by 20-somethings, and these people are played by 8 or 9-year-olds or something like that. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit under, maybe 7, probably 6 or 7. They've been aged up, so as to say the least. And we have 2 parents, loving parents. It's a loving, happy little home. And then the father dies in a car accident. The mother goes into a spiral, and she goes into debt, and she loses the house. So she takes her 4 kids back home to her father's house. She grew up in a very strange little home. The father is a very, very rich man, but he is also very, very Catholic. Is it Catholic, or he's just very, very old school, Old Testament? And we later learn that the mother married, that the father is the younger brother of the father, aka the grandfather. So the mother's father is both the uncle and grandfather of these 4 kids. The incest, does that make sense? You get that? The uncle, the mother married the uncle. Now, naturally, there was a very, very big age gap between the father and the very younger brother, but still, that doesn't make this okay. So, when the 2 parents got together, the father disowned the daughter, and she left. And for 17 years, they lived a happy life until he died. When she returns home, she and the grandmother lock the 4 kids in a bedroom where they have access to the attic. And there they stay for years, expected to be forgotten about, and eventually perish in that room. And they're told by the grandmother that they are children born out of sin and all this other stuff. And lots of terrible things happen to these people, and it is very, very sad. Eventually, they do manage to escape, but they learn that the mother has been poisoning the children, trying to get them to die slowly over time, quietly, so that they could just shove this whole period of her life out the door so that she can move on to another person and get to inherit the father's millions and millions of dollars and the estate and all that other good stuff. Because in the father's will, if it got out that she had children from incestuous things, she would be disinherited. She knew about the will, so she knew that she had to get rid of the kids in order to get the money. So when the kids find out about this, they ruin the mother's plans. They have a big confrontation, and and happily ever after, so as to say. In the novel, there are like 5 novels in this series, and the first novel gets a little darker than this. In their little trapped bedroom attic place, the teenage children start to go through puberty. They're in this room for years, and they start to go through puberty, and the only other member of the opposite sex they've ever had to interact with have been each other, and something very, very taboo starts to happen in the novel of this, in the book of the same name, and something happens from that, and they try to make that not happen again. Obviously, they don't want that to happen again. They try to use their willpower to prevent themselves from doing all that stuff, so that when they finally escape, they do separate from that stuff and vow never to let that happen again. But in the sequel novels of this series, it does end up happening again, and they end up getting married. And the grandmother ends up perishing in a fire, I think, the house fire, I think in like the sequel novel or something, and then the mother ends up being their next door neighbor, and I think the 3rd book or 2nd book or something, and they have a big confrontation with that, and then the mother perishes, and or the mother is placed in an insane asylum, I think. There's just so much craziness going on with this family that was written in this book series. I'm not going to read those books. I looked up the story synopses of these books, obviously, when I was looking up information about this movie, and wow, what a rabbit hole for me to have gone down. But the film itself it's a made-for-TV movie made in the 80s, so the quality isn't going to be the best. The acting is going to feel like made-for-TV acting. It's not terrible, but it's not excellent, Oscar-worthy, clearly. But it is a good watch. It is a fascinating watch for a very dark and twisted story, kind of like something out of Poe. It's a very gothic tragedy. Out of Poe, basically. It kind of reminds me of what's that guy's name? The Fall of the House of Usher. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, just a little bit. But if you're interested in giving this a look, I wouldn't behoove you to take a look at it.